we're in the jewelry business. And in this business, they do something called consignment sales. Now, what a consignment sale really is the company who's going to do the selling does not take inventory risk, meaning they don't buy the inventory and sit on the inventory and do it. They may take physical possession of it, but they don't really own it. The company who's supplying the inventory owns it. And the basic deal they do is when the jewelry store sells the jewelry, pay the supplier now. You owe the supplier for what you do. And that's called a consignment business. So the idea here is that when there is an actual sale of the good, which would be represented by a customer invoice or cash sale, what basically has to happen is a user interface has come up that says, find all the related purchase orders for which we brought in those goods. Then basically they're going to get organized in a particular way, and we're going to go through a server plugin, and we're going to actually generate a bunch of vendor bills because we need to pay the suppliers. Then we're going to actually go back and we're going to update these customer invoices and cash sales because we added a custom field on the line there on the sales side to say, how many of these things did we actually bill, meaning vendor bills, did we pay for, as a way to kind of get control over what's happening in the environment. So I'm going to turn this over to Sylvain now.
You can talk about the 3 parts here. There's 3 tables that appear. 2 of them are empty at the start, and there's really 2 sources of data. So there's sold items and unbilled items. Sold items is a query that's going to look at transactions of the sales type, invoices and cash sales and credit memos as well. And where the quantity billed is null or the quantity billed is different from the quantity on the line, so that we can only display items that we can bill, right? So the idea is after we build them and after we update that custom field that says, okay, we build this, we don't want to see this in this table anymore. Okay, and that's loaded on request as we load the page, and there's really no other criteria here. So we do a blanket sort of, you get them all. On the other side, there's an unbilled items data source, and that's over here. Here again, we're looking at transactions, but we're only looking at purchase orders. And again, the idea is where the quantity is different from the quantity billed. So we're trying to build up a master list of all the different POs that we can bill, right? And the app is going to show to the user when they select one of the items at the top, it's going to just display on the bottom any POs that exist that contain that item with unbilled quantities. The functionality on the bottom it doesn't let the user choose which POs are going to get billed. Client was asking for us to, when we have things to bill, walk through the list of POs in chronological order, starting from oldest. So just bill all that you can, starting from the oldest PO. There is some functionality here because this cost is the cost field that exists on the item, which might change over time since the PO is constituted. So if it goes up or down, then it'll be highlighted as red. I'll show you like this. This is defaulting to the purchase price when you load the app, which is the price that exists on the PO. If the cost on the item at this moment is different than what the PO cost was, then we're going to highlight this to tell the user, hey, there's a difference here. Do you want to bill at the purchase price, or do you want to bill at the cost price, the item's price? So that's just a little bit of client-side functionality that if I were to sort of change all these numbers and make them all different and select the ones that I want to update, I will update those ones to the current item cost. So that's just a little bit of client-side functionality. What ends up going to the bill is the value that the user puts into this input box. They could put in anything they want, essentially. Okay, so what happens when you click on one of these things? So if I click these two, it's actually the same item on 2 different invoices, total quantity of 10. That's why the PO list didn't change, because it's the same item. So I want to see all POs that exist for this item. So I'm saying I want to build 10 of these items. And there's a bunch of them. There's 12 of them that exist across POs. So I guess we could bill, if this is in chronological order, right? We can bill all the way up to this one here. So when you click the top button, what's going to happen is, well, on the client, I sort of build up the data. I figure out how many vendor bills am I going to create and what are they going to be. If you take a look here, I'm going to have a vendor bill for this vendor. I'm going to have a different vendor bill for this vendor because it's a different vendor. But then for this vendor, has the same location as the first one. So I can just stack these two quantity on that first vendor bill. And then for the remaining two, because we only got up to 8 now, and if I want to build 10, I need 2 more. I'm going to have to create a third vendor bill for this vendor, which is the same vendor, but a different location. And so I get to set the vendor and the location on the vendor bill. These checkboxes don't really make any difference at all. So what's going to happen is I'm going to figure out and do some sorting, figure out that I need to create 3 vendor bills. So I'm going to send 3 requests to the server plugin to create 3 individual vendor bills. They're going to do their thing, and they're going to return, and they're each going to tell me if they succeeded or not. And if they succeeded, they're going to tell me what is the quantity that was billed. From there, I can say, okay, that means that I need to update these invoices with the actually billed quantity to update this custom field on the sales transaction so that they don't appear in this table again. They're going to get filtered out by this query. And then in the meantime, I'm going to update the little table over here to tell us what vendor bills got created. We could click on them. I'm going to reload the purchase order list. And once those sales transactions get uploaded, I'm going to reload the sales transaction list. And let's see if that works. So creating 3 vendor bills, that gets sent out, three requests to create the vendor bills. We wait.
I can see that it called out to the plugin, so it's called out to the server.
3 times, once for each of the 3 bills that we want to create. Okay, we got something back. It created those 3 things. It figured out, it updated the bottom list. It figured out that it needs to update 2 sales transactions. So that's the next thing that happens. Send out 2 requests to update those 2 invoices. We wait for those 2 things to update. And once they're done, the top table should update, and we shouldn't see that item anymore at all. Query start. Yeah, I'm still updating sales lines. Start. This query up, there you go. Okay, and then that item is gone. And we can go and delete those vendor bills if we want and reset the data so that we can go and try it again. So that was pretty good.